Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
Every year at this time, Laura and I get together to recap what happened in the health coaching world and on our health coaching podcast in the preceding 12 months. This is our 2021 Year in Review episode. Laura and I both share a few things that we saw happening in the coaching world this past year, what we predict might be up and coming for health coaching in 2022, and we ranked some of our favorite episodes of Health Coach Radio from the past year. A super quick promotional message, and then we'll be on our way with this episode. We just launched something that we're pretty excited about and wanted to share with you. My Primal Coach is a convenient app-based health coaching program that delivers daily lessons with actionable tips and provides one-on-one personalized coaching to help you stay on track and reach your wellness goals in just 12 weeks. It's developed and delivered by the team behind Primal Health Coach Institute, the first and preeminent ancestral health coaching school in existence. We have trained and certified thousands of successful health coaches across 75 countries around the world. We're experts in behavior change, and we understand how to get clients the results they desire. Our mission at My Primal Coach is the exact same as our mission with Primal Health Coach Institute, to help 100 million people reclaim health and wellness through education and coaching. Check it out for yourself at myprimalcoach.com. We always love to see who's listening to us out there, so please take a screen grab of your podcast player and tag us on Instagram at Health Coach Radio. And as always, the show notes for this episode can be found at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. It is time to hang with me and my co-host Laura as we recap the fastest calendar year that has ever happened. Please enjoy our annual Year in Review episode.
Erin Power. It's almost 2022.
Weird.
Holy cow. I know. I feel like we just recorded this yesterday for last year. All of a sudden we're at, oh boy.
I was very surprised when I looked at our podcast publishing schedule and I was like, oh, me and Laura have to talk about our year in review episode that we've been doing every year for the last 3 years.
Yeah. Unbelievable. 3 years. I know. And it all goes by so fast. I know it's so cliche, but it's true. Time flies. We've had some amazing guests. We've had another wackadoodle of a year for 2021. Unbelievable.
Yep. Well, let's start with that. So, in the spirit of the year in review, it's a good idea for us to, spend some time thinking about what happened this year. What were some of the topics and trends that we saw happening and emerging in this past calendar year in the health, fitness, nutrition coaching space in the world that we play in that is kind of worth remembering? Does anything spring to mind for you?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things. So this past year, was again another crazy year. I don't know about you, but I really thought we would not still be dealing with coronavirus, that it wouldn't still be so front and center for so many people still. But with that has come, I think a lot of really interesting trends, for sure. One of which is, as my role here at our school anyway, is to talk to people who are interested in health coaching. And I've had more than ever more interest from the clinical space on a couple fronts. First of all, clinical practices continuing to either pay for someone on staff or looking to hire folks, but also a lot of clinical practitioners looking to, I guess, get out of the brick and mortar now. I think for a lot of people whose health-based businesses were very face-to-face, felt very fragile moving into this year, and that the uptick of telemedicine has grown. It didn't slow down this year. It actually grew. And I think a lot of practitioners are thinking this is perfect for lifestyle medicine.
I think it's interesting because I think we brought this up last year,
Hmm.
right? But because last year it was like, oh, we had to move to telemedicine because things were closed. And this year it was like, well, things are opening back up, but telemedicine's pretty convenient.
Yeah, it's not going away.
It didn't go away. Yeah, exactly. Didn't go away. It's one thing that didn't kind of necessarily, it didn't go back to normal. I think that's probably a good thing. It definitely is a good thing from the perspective of maybe a health, fitness, nutrition coach who has a virtual business that many of us do, um, because the consumer is becoming more literate to the online platform.
Oh, yeah. I just think more and more people over the course of the last certainly 12 months, but even just sort of 18-ish months I don't know, we've all gotten really used to having everything from home for the most part. Not everybody, but there's a certain sort of class of professional that just was working from home and just sort of got used to everything from home, started working out from home. Everything was delivered, everything was virtual. And, for good or bad, I do think there are some drawbacks to this everything being virtual as well. But I think this is something health coaches can really lean into.
Mm-hmm. Just a funny anecdote. I was visiting my family. They live in a different province, so got to go visit them for the first time in a couple of years. I was hanging out with my nieces, and they're 8 and 10 years old. And my sister she's got a kind of a corporate job, so she's been doing her job from home for the last 2 years. And my brother-in-law is a police officer, so he's still out there pounding the pavement.
Mhm.
And my little 8-year-old niece said, "When I grow up, I want to have a job like daddy's." Because
Interesting.
daddy goes to work, but mommy has to work at home. It was just the most wild thing. It's like, wow, what a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
I had a client this year who articulated this perfectly. She said, she's also a very busy executive, kind of corporate job, working at home. She said, previously, my drive home from work was the decompression. It was like, this is the transition. Now
Mhm.
I'm at home, I'm ready to take care of myself. And that went away. So a trend that I would add, or trend, or something we noticed in this last year, for better or worse, is a utter lack of boundaries.
Mhm.
Utter lack of boundaries. So some of our higher performing clients, people who are, you get to your point, in these corporate roles, are I've found my clients anyway struggling to delineate or create time for themselves, which is crucially essential if you're trying to improve your health. It's crucial. You have to find time. You
Mhm.
literally have to find it to make food for yourself, take care of yourself, move, sleep, manage your stress, all of these things that we know. And there's just no aptitude as to how to do that, how to set those boundaries.
I 100% agree with you. And as sad as it sounds, like literally for me this past year, like a trip to the grocery store or to Costco was like a day out.
You
You
know,
know, I mean, just crazy. And I mean, Brad and I moved down to Florida, so we were even more open here than in a lot of
right.
places. But at the same time, I've worked from home for years, and to sort of piggyback on what you were saying about your client, my time in the car was when I got the chance to catch up with friends on the phone. I would
Mhm.
call them. I called it windshield time. Hey, I got windshield time. Who can I talk to? And that's when I would call people. I would call my sister or some of my girlfriends from high school or college or whatever and chat on my way home. That's when I got all my errands run, which is either on my way to an appointment or on my way home. I was out anyway. I was much more inclined to actually go to the gym rather than come home because I was already out. And that dynamic totally changed.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to your point, like my girls are 7 now, they love getting out. They love just getting out to go to a restaurant or going someplace because it almost seems like a luxury.
Yeah. Well, I went to the gym this morning and did a workout that I easily could have done here, but I just needed to go, needed to get in the car, go there, be there. Um, yeah, wild. It's like the novelty of working from home, being at home all the time. It's so interesting how that novelty wears off, because I think about, you and I both have been working from home for a long time, but
Yeah.
we both had corporate jobs before. And I
Mhm.
remember I would get in my car and drive to this office and be resentful that I was spending the whole day out of my home And then it was like when you get the chance or are forced into working from home, then it's like, well, now I'm just here all the time. It's like
Right.
we just, I don't
Right.
know, the our flexibility, I guess, was been taken away from us. I used to love going to coffee shops or co-working spaces to get out of the house. Where I live, can't do that. We're still pretty locked down up here. So
Oh
anyway.
boy. I mean, yeah. So it's so strange how all the trends that when I think of 2021 and the things that were different about it or trends, I think I can 100% take back to all these changes in life that, this whole pandemic and the response to the pandemic has caused, The other thing I've seen, and I know we've noticed this particularly in the health space, is the rise of direct to consumer lab tests, other type of testing, things of that nature, that consumers can now get their hands on. And I think the net on that is a good thing. I think it's a very positive thing for health consumers.
Yep.
But it can also be a tremendous opportunity for health coaches on
Yes.
helping clients navigate translating that and what that then means as it relates to changes or decision making.
Right. Well, from the health consumer side, what I think is good about it is there's some inherent empowerment that's kind of baked in the cake. Like I've encouraged my clients, for example, to get the GI map test on. I had the GI map done myself this year. Interesting, very interesting test. It involves a stool sample, which
Right.
is not pleasant. You don't think it's going to be pleasant. It's not going to be pleasant. Then when you're in it, it's like, this is really unpleasant. Anyway, but like, that's kind of like in a sense, a home test. You at least where I live, you need to get it ordered through a doctor, but you do it at home and it gets shipped off. And it's pretty cool to know that, hey, if you want to figure out what's going on there, Dutch test, GI map, there's all these kind of cool tests, the cardiometabolic report that we've seen through the Precision Health Reports guys, like run to a lab, get a blood test, just figure out where you're at. Like, that's empowering, because previously a lot of that metric, like the objective health data stuff, was kind of locked up with the doctor. Right. So it's kind of cool, kind of empowering.
We had interviewed Rob Wolf, what seems like forever ago, and he's the first person to mention these Precision Health Report guys. And so we've talked to them, right, Erin? And we've used them with clients. I've used it myself, and the ability to get a blood panel done that takes a look at cardiometabolic risk and type 2 diabetes risk from a fully holistic spectrum, so that you can take a look at and say, yeah, this number might be high, but this number is really low. And so then now what you have is a net risk score that gives you the ability to really make some some choices. But the realm of the health coach is being able to take a look at this report that's been produced by a doctor, right? And translated by a doctor that also has some basic sort of recommendations on how to move the needle in the direction you want to go. Now the health coach has some real meat on the bone on the ability to educate clients around what these numbers really mean, the ability to understand that there's more than one way to look at these numbers, what they really mean, and allow the clients to really, now that they understand, work with them to make some empowering choices for themselves about the direction that they might want to go with their diet or how they're moving and things of that nature.
Yeah. It harkens back to this document you had shared. So you had gotten this from our friend Jonathan Posey at the Council for Holistic Health Educators.
Correct.
Holistic Council. We love these guys. So Jonathan's been on our podcast many times too. Honestly, the Holistic Council is an organization, if you're listening to this, that you should become aware of, because they are not only clarifying our cans and can'ts, what we can do as health coaches, but they're also breaking that down for you in terms of your region, specifically in the US, and they're advocating for us.
Yes.
So I thought it was interesting, and he just sent through to us. He had put together this whole document about in what states can health coaches engage their clients in lab testing. Some are no go, don't even talk about it. And then some are, you can absolutely encourage your clients to go get these tests. You still can't decipher them. Like you can't decipher them, but you can put behaviors into place that correspond to the outcomes of them. So that's worth getting your hands on, listeners, if you want to understand that.
Yeah. Go to holisticcounsel.org. And I will tell you, Jonathan works his tail off directly for your benefit. And I've been on the board there. I think I'm now the president of the board over there. It's just a volunteer position, but I will tell you, the council needs every donation it can get its hands on, and literally every dollar goes towards advocacy, either paying for attorneys, paying for lobbyists, writing briefs, money so that Jonathan can eat lunch when he's out fighting for your right to practice. And if it's not, look, we talk to folks from all sorts of different states, and some in the wild, wild west, those states where there really are no licensure laws. It's like, well, it doesn't really impact me. It doesn't now, but it could at some point. And quite frankly, the more we can help support health coaching broadly, not only nationally, but worldwide, the more it's going to benefit you and the exposure about what health coaching does and what we're able to do.
Yeah. So I think it's been interesting. 2021, I feel like, what is the word I want to use? Health coaching has become, I don't like this word, but it feels like the right one, like even more legitimized. And I feel like that's happening year over year over year. I think we're seeing that because we are coaches and we are health coach educators. We're on the faculty of a school. We're mentoring and training coaches. And, I just had a conversation with another client, just to kind of bring it around, who said on our call, she said, I thought you were going to tell me what to do a lot more than you do. and I said, oh, no. Look, coaching is different. Coaching is not about me plying you with information. Coaching is about nurturing what is believed and known from within you, what you can confidently execute within the parameters of my, my methodology or my protocol, which there is still information and education to be had there. But it's like, even from the perspective of a consumer, noticing like, man, this coaching thing is different than I expected it to. I thought I was going to be put on a diet or given a workout plan. And it's like, every single time we come to these calls and you're asking me what needs to be done. And it's pretty cool. It's cool to have been, I feel like we are early adopters in coaching. I really do, like in health coaching.
Right.
And now it's kind of catching up, and even consumers are noticing that what a health coach offers is really different than what diet culture led them to believe they needed.
And I think there's, first of all, the fact that there are so many programs on the market today, to a certain degree, lends some legitimacy. But in addition to that, in a lot of the major national markets, there are now organizations, professional organizations, that are there specifically to elevate the legitimacy of health coaches and really define their role. So here in the US, it's the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching. In Canada, it's the Canadian Health Coaching Alliance. In the UK, it's the UK Health Coaching Association. And we were just approved at the Health Coaches of Australia and New Zealand Association. So those are just some, and then there's also the International Coaching Federation. So these are very serious organizations that will do the legwork to verify that where you graduated from is legit. And by the way, legally, every program legally is legit, meaning there's no regulatory authority. But these people are now saying, all right, let's get through the noise and let's identify the programs that meet certain standards, certain criteria. And so now it's creating a more sort of definable standard that folks can say, not only am I a health coach, but I belong to this organization and this is what it means. And so now when looking for jobs, there are now employers that are aware of these other institutions. Okay, so first step, he or she is a health coach. They've got some experience and their credential is backed by, not their credential, but they're additionally credentialed through these other organizations. So I really think that has helped as far as lending some credibility for health coaching, particularly in the clinical space. Now, interestingly, we still get these trolls, we see them on social media all the time about, I would never trust my health to somebody who went through 6 months worth of training, or, hey, aren't you practicing medicine without a license? Or, hey, are you even allowed to do? These are all people that clearly have no idea what health coaching is.
No.
Zero, and so it's, and look, from a standpoint of a coach seeing this kind of stuff on social media, you can't let it get your back up. These are clearly people that don't understand. And the one thing I've learned about social media is I'm never going to win an argument on there. So don't even engage. But it's our opportunity moving forward to define what it is we do.
Yeah.
And who it is we serve and how we're different from all these other things. I mean, how do you describe it these days? I mean, have you changed how you define what you do?
I haven't changed how I define what I do to my clients, but here's what I'll offer. So I teach this advanced health coaching course through our school. And this is the course that is approved for the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches, which is the board certifying body for health coaching currently. It's the one to whom we had to raise our educational standard. And you'll see a lot of job postings for health coaches that are looking for a school that is accredited by the NBHWC. So we are. So this course that I teach is advanced coaching skills. It has nothing to do with nutrition or fitness or any sleep. It's coaching. So it's very much an immersion into the art and science of coaching. So I have to grade coaching sessions for these students. They have to submit a role play that's graded pass fail. And in listening to these coaching sessions, one thing that jumped out at me, I'm getting to a point here, just hang with me. I'm grading it against this huge grading rubrics. It's just competencies that these folks have to hit a certain number of. One of the competencies is the coach's biases are imperceptible. And well-executed coaching is free from bias. So the client on the phone with you has no idea if you're plant-based or carnivore or whatever your personal dietary dogma is. It doesn't even show up because coaching conversations are client-led. And so it's really interesting to listen to coaches as they mature into their coaching skills, how their bias vanishes, how the client is put front and center. Another example that I'll use, just by way of anecdote, I'm managing an injury right now. So I'm going to a physical therapy clinic to manage this injury. And the injury would be really easy to fix if I would only do my exercises, which I don't, because nobody does, right? Who does? You go to the physical therapist, they move you around and like do yoga on you. And then they say, okay, now make sure and you don't. That's where a health coach would be awesome, right? Think about it. The physical therapist tells you what to do, implement information. That's their job. You go there, you pay them $85 and they show you the exercises, and then you have to go do it. And there's something that happens between leaving their office and getting home where you're like, oh, I'm not doing these. And it's the thing that's going to make you better.
Right.
Is doing it. That's coaching. So I feel, so just to kind of jump ahead to what I think would be a really interesting trend moving forward is health coaches in a physical therapy clinic. But to get back to answer your question, when I think about health coaching, I think about it in terms of what I'm seeing, how I'm seeing coaches execute. And it's really exciting to see coaches kind of vanish back and let the client lead. Because what we need to graduate our clients with is autonomy, self-efficacy, the belief that they know what to do and how to do it on their own so they can graduate from your care at some point. And that fills me with hope. It fills me with a lot of hope that we are really making health coaches. We are not making change for our clients, but we're creating the environment where the client makes the lifelong change for themselves.
Exactly.
Based on what the resources they have in and around them, which is really freaking cool.
Yeah, no, I love that. And just exactly what you just said there, that change can only happen if the environment allows for it. So it's our job as coaches is to help the client identify what aspects of their environment need to change. And then we can provide a little information, some resources here and there to help them figure out how to make that change happen. And then it's miraculous when people are like, wow, that was so easy. Why couldn't I do that before?
Yeah.
It's because they just needed help making room, right?
Yeah. And what's really fun is like the successes that our clients come to us with in coaching conversations when you get into the meat of coaching are so different than what you think they were going to be. Like
Right.
Erin of 15 years ago might have been excited if her client hit her protein and fat and carbohydrate targets for the day or whatever.
Right.
Yay, you hit your numbers. Erin of today is excited. Oh, my client hasn't had cake in 3 weeks. It's like, because not because there's anything wrong with cake, but because that client had a problematic relationship with cake and was trying to get to the root of it. And through practice and experimentation was able to. Like, it's just really like, I feel like the change that a health coach enables and encourages for clients is so meaningful.
Right.
So meaningful, so much more meaningful than a lot of kind of the objective. I keep getting my objectives and subjectives mixed up. The objective.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of programs on the market. You and I both know what they are. That really, when you take a look at what you're going to learn nutritionally or about coaching, really has nothing to do with behavior or habit change. It's all about the macros, dude, right? So you see programs that are very nutrition heavy, but it's all information. And then you have others that are, which look, is helpful. I think as a health coach, your client assumes you know that. Like, that's table stakes, right? Where you make the difference is in the actual coaching. And there are some health coaching programs where it's 95% coaching training, which is great, but we are kind of missing another aspect of that puzzle. I do think that we are, at least our school as an organization, that's a strong suit for us. And there's a few more that are coming online. But I kind of feel like in the past, it's been one or the other. And we came through at our school as a bit of a groundbreaker in offering training in both, plus business. And I think, as I don't want to toot our own horn, but in my role, I know what other programs people are looking at. And the other programs are now starting to talk this language, and leading into why coaching is so important, why business is so important. And there's more and more people that have taken some of these other programs that realize they don't have what it takes to help people actually change and help actually influence behavior from a psychological point of view. And I do think that in 2021, I don't know about you, but I noticed a trend in the other direction as far as people that I'm talking to, that's what they want to get to. People that are in the market to become a coach, or maybe people that are coaches, realized this is the missing link and this is the direction I want to go. Because again, from the standpoint of the pandemic and the consequences of the policies related to the pandemic, has led people to understand just how emotionally fragile people are, and that they need to feel better equipped at helping to help those clients feel re-empowered, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking, talking about teaching and training coaches and mentoring and in personal ongoing development, which I think health coaches are pretty good about. We're pretty eager to keep learning. You mentioned that we teach our coaches how to go to business for themselves. I'm using air quotes if you're listening. I don't know if you could hear them, but I'm using air quotes. And this whole idea about teaching a coach to go to business for themselves is not about it's not even about business. It's about, what are you going to put together that actually helps people? Like programming. What does that look like? What's the customer experience? What's the journey? What are the milestones this customer should be expecting and experiencing? And how are you going to bring people into your fold? It's the third pillar of our educational platform, and we've had some internal conversations about, is it viable? Is it essential for coaches to know this? And I think we've landed on the position that it is essential for a coach to know what problem they solve for whom, how, what the technology and the logistics of that are. So we're kind of doubling down on that, on let's fully understand how, literally how to go to market as a coach, so that we can help as many people as we want. Because if you don't have eyeballs on you, you can have all the advanced coaching training in the world, but you got to be with people. You got to get yourself in front of people. And so I think it's really important that coaches understand how to do that. Well, what we've seen here on this podcast in the last year, how many business coaches did we interview?
Oh my gosh,
12,
yeah.
tons, a dozen probably. So there's no shortage of business education to be had out there. And my advice would be find somebody you like who's speaking a business coach that's speaking a language that you really, really resonate with, and just start following and picking up the free information they're putting out there. And then just start thinking about yourself like a practice manager, practice owner. You don't have to think about yourself like an entrepreneur. We don't have to go that far, but you are running a practice. And even if you're working for somebody, even if you're working in a clinic or you're working for an app or you're working all these health coaching jobs that are just coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
You have a practice. And I think that's a tangible thing that coaches should be looking to build in a meaningful way.
100%. And I think if, even folks that are going into health coaching, but really at the end of the day, they're looking for a job, you need to sell yourself. From the standpoint of building a practice, even those that at the end of the day are really just want to know if whatever program they choose is going to make them marketable to an employer, the program is only a part of the process. Mm-hmm. You've got to earn the job, right? So the program that you graduate from might need to meet a certain standard to even get you an interview. But at the end of the day, you need to actually earn the job, which means you need to be very clear about who you are, why you're in this role, who it is you think you serve ideally, why, what it is you bring to the table. Like, as we go through life, all of us to a certain degree are salespeople, and this is no exception. So you might be looking to, land a job in a clinic or a hospital or something like that. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to articulate well what it is you do, what coaching is, because at the end, whether you're working for someone else or not, it's going to be you and the client. Mm-hmm. Yep. And a relationship that you have to build, and you got to be true to that side of you. And we walk you through all that. Mm-hmm. Business is more than just branding and marketing.
Yeah.
So many other aspects to that. And I think that's even more so now. We've seen a lot of people make some job changes this year. Mm-hmm. 2021, that's another, I think, defining feature. Mm-hmm. Is just how many people have used this as an opportunity to change careers because something interrupted work. Gee, I wonder what it was, and they sort of viewed this as an opportunity to sort of head in another direction.
Yeah. I've heard this phrase used, it's crude, but this whole idea of like a pandemic proof job or a pandemic proof business. Mm-hmm. So I think about all my friends who are personal trainers, and that didn't prove to be pandemic proof because gyms closed. Mm-hmm. No, lots of personal trainers have pivoted online. I think that's a trend we're going to continue to see growing into 2022. But I think the concept of a pandemic proof business is really, it's just crude. Like, let's just hope and pray that we don't have another pandemic. Like, let's just not worry about, but I think what we can extrapolate from this idea of a pandemic proof practice is like, is this flexible and nimble enough? Can this be far reaching? What am I tethered to, and do I need to be tethered to it? I'm not saying everybody has to go virtual. I'm not saying that, but it does seem reasonable to at least think about maybe some kind of a hybrid model. Have, even if you're not comfortable with technology, get comfortable enough with it that you can offer things that sort of untether you from brick and mortar realm. Again, knocking on wood, there will not be another pandemic, and maybe this one will end at some point in our lifetime. But there's something to be said about building something that's flexible and that can move with you. You don't feel stuck in. And that's also, by the way, the beauty of kind of toe dipping into entrepreneurship is you can build whatever you want. Time. But, being able to pivot. So we talk about pivoting a lot. Like we talk about that with Mark all the time, Mark Sisson, and resiliency and pivoting. But in order to be able to pivot, you can't be bolted to the floor, right? So I think that a lot of maybe even folks who've been practicing for a long time need to kind of unbolt themselves from the floor so they can more nimbly pivot. That might be adopting some technology. That might be shoring up your coaching skills. That might involve, just finding the gaps in your knowledge and your practice and doubling down on kind of filling those.
For sure. I mean, so you and I talked a little bit the other day about these trends of people bringing on these hybrid models. Like, do we think that's something that's going to stick for 2002? And I think so. To your point, right? You need the flexibility to be able to be what the client needs and what the market and the environment is calling for in the moment to a certain degree.
Yes. So the hybrid model, so this is a good example. Hybrid model specifically in like fitness training. Let's just go with that because it's an easier model to kind of wrap your head around. So like a personal trainer previously was very tethered to a gym, right? We always kind of had that. And then you had the folks who were branching out online with like apps. So using maybe an app like Trainerize or True Coach or something like that, where you're building a program and there's curriculum and this app is not personalized. It's a workout program that's been put together, whatever. And so where the personal training relationship in the gym is theoretically personalized. But then there's this whole space in between. And this is kind of where I think the fitness consumer, a lot of them are landing. Like, I want to be in the gym sometime to work with a trainer who's with me. And I also would like to have programming done that I can do at home, because now I have a home gym, which I didn't have 2 years ago or whatever.
Yep.
So I feel like I would like to see, like, all my friends and peers that are fitness trainers specifically, I think that's the opportunity, this hybrid model. Like, don't go totally like not totally online, not totally brick and mortar, but like both at the same time. I feel like consumers are going to be really interested in that. And the other thing too is that maybe fitness training is ripe for a renaissance, and maybe coaching comes into the fitness world more than it has been, right? Because I love working. I've been a personal trainer forever, and I've worked with personal trainers forever, and I love working with a trainer. And a lot of times that trainer is, standing there counting my sets and reps and tracking my weights, which is great. And there's still an opportunity to have conversations about, like, what are my motivators? Why am I here? What's working? What's not working? Right. In the broader context of health. So I think coaching coming into fitness, actual coaching conversations, like 2 days a week in the gym and a coaching call on Fridays or something like that. Like, I'd love to see that in the fitness world.
I think any personal trainer or anyone that comes from the gym world, I mean, I've owned a gym, and we understand that there are aspects where you've got members that are coming in and all of a sudden you don't see them for a month, and it's reaching back out to them to find out I think any personal trainer or gym owner can absolutely agree with that. And that if we were including these coaching conversations on a regular basis, would we see less drop off? Certainly you'd see better outcomes, and you'd get more referrals. Right? If you're kind of different from everybody else. I definitely think the fitness world is ripe for a renaissance. We both know, having been in the fitness business for a long time, there's a whole lot of not healthy in the fitness world. A whole lot of not healthy. Remember when we went to the LA Fitness Expo? All the nonsense that we saw for sale there, stuff that was passed off as food and supplements, which is really just caffeine and beta alanine, and like, that's kind of, I mean, the whole thing was really just so disheartening.
Surface level. It was very surface level. Yeah. And that's not disparaging. Yeah. And that's not disparaging, because Laura and I we're both meatheads. We love throwing weights around. Don't get us wrong. But yeah, like, fitness has been for a long time very surface level. Like, I'm going to pick this thing up and put it down, anabolic window, and like just tactics with no substance or this, again, going back to this idea of the intrinsic motivator or the big picture of one's life. The fitness exists in the vacuum of the gym or the shaker bottle or whatever.
Right. I mean, how many people go on vacation? They've been gone for a week. They did nothing all week long. It, related to like exercise. And then the idea of getting back into the gym after a week or two off seems super daunting, and motivation wanes. Can you imagine if you were a health coach and you had you added health coaching to your fitness practice, and you're able to have these little touchstones and sort of a text relationship with your client while they're on vacation, what have you? Right. And the ability to just be like, when you come, when are you getting in next? I have us down for next week. Let's talk about vacation and how that went. And boom, you can pick things right up. I mean, I owned a CrossFit gym, and CrossFit is one of these things where if you take enough time off, you almost don't want to start again because you're afraid of how sore you're going to be when you first get started again. Like the notion of that is not appealing. And so in some cases, it takes a little while and people drag their feet before they eventually come in, because what they miss eventually is how good they felt once they got past that initial stage.
That's a big part of it. Like, there's just an inherent momentum when you're exercising regularly that screeches to a halt when you stop. Yeah. And so it's like any personal trainer can relate to the client that's kind of ghosted them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can't make it. I'm busy at work. Oh, I can't make it. My kid's sick. And then you just don't really hear, they're not really booking their sessions. So, well, if you had coaching calls on the agenda, you could get to the heart of that. Right. You don't have to come in and lift the weights. I get it. Like it's been 2 weeks and now you're worried that it's going to hurt. But let's talk about what happened in those 2 weeks. What prevented you from getting here? How can we address this going forward? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'd love to see health coaching in the fitness training relationship. So that's I'm putting that on a list for 2022. Let's see that happen.
I like it. I think we'll see it. Absolutely.
Yeah. What else is on that list?
Oh boy, I think now is probably a good time to go through some of our favorite episodes that we think if you missed it in 2021, go back and listen to it. Like I can start, I guess, with sort of some of my favorites. We can just go back and forth because I know we had some favorites in common. Kind of starting with some of the more recent episodes and moving backwards, I just was so excited to talk to Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. Mm-hmm. I've been following her for so long. There's so much about what she talks about that resonates with me. So selfishly, but I just think she provided so much real, valuable, both information and tactical tips on how health coaches can work with clients and the benefit of sort of a protein muscle-centric practice. Mm-hmm. I just loved it. And I just think up until recently, particularly for women, we just didn't hear enough of that. And it was like music to my ears.
Well, what I loved about her interview was that it was sort of like this kind of crazy rally cry. This idea of like when you go to the doctor and you step on the scale and the doctor says, you're too fat, you need to lose weight, which doesn't happen to everybody, but let's just go with that. The doctor's looking at this one metric and making some judgment call on what needs to happen. But nobody's measuring lean body mass, which is actually what you need. Like imagine going to the doctor and the doctor saying, I need you to put on 12 pounds of lean body mass this year. Like that's the change that needs to happen.
Right. Yeah. That's the huge thing that I took away from it, that if we focus on building lean mass rather than always focusing on getting smaller and smaller, and I hope I'm losing fat. Am I doing this right? We know what it takes to kind of add lean mass and the, other than just calories, because to be fair, more advanced athletes, it's going to take a lot more calories to add muscle, but really like beginner people that are just starting to sort of learn how to lift and strength train, it doesn't take a whole lot. And if we can just help clients focus on the positive, I'm adding lean mass rather than constantly focused on a negative and trying to lose body mass. When you focus on the right things that are going to actually drive adding muscle, you're going to a certain degree, at least in the beginning, by default, lose body fat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think even not just the novice exerciser, but even like the Gen Pop exerciser. Because I know you were kind of saying like athletes need something different. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who are not athletes who exercise regularly for health and fitness and strength and whatever, but they're not athletes, but they're kind of micromanaging things as though they are, but they're putting the emphasis on the wrong thing. So yeah, that was a very cool episode. I just love how she's just kind of sticking it to the conventional wisdom as a practicing physician. And it's very cool. Very, very cool.
Me too.
Okay. Well, I'm probably going to steal this one from your list, but I got to do it because I was really delighted by Rudy from Viva Rays. Circadian biology is actually one of the pillars of my health coaching practice. Like it's pretty foundational to how I coach people. And his conversation was all about light, not just in context of sleep, he's with Viva Rays, a blue light blocking glasses company, but we know blue light blocking glasses is like a tool in our arsenal for sleep hygiene. But he talked about light in a way broader, here comes a pun, spectrum, in terms of like how it syncs up your clock, morning, noon, night, junk light, quality light, healthy light. He went really granular into the spectrums of blue. Like, it's like not all blue is bad all the time.
Right.
And he was so enthusiastic about how impactful he believes improving your light nutrition, I guess, is for our health. And I could not agree more.
Oh my gosh, I sent that episode to everybody. I sent it to so many people because there was so much about what he has to say that's immediately actionable.
Yeah.
And so much about what he has to say that, even as much as we nerd out on this stuff, I didn't know. Right. I didn't understand the nuances of it.
Yeah.
And he's able to just mention this stuff off the top of his head because, again, this is his specialty. This is where he specializes. But if you haven't heard it, you've got to go back and listen to that episode as a health coach, as a health consumer, because it will change some of your own behaviors. And also, I think, the way you coach people.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that he told us that I didn't know was how temperature plays in, like temperature and light. That makes sense. Like, imagine we're tuned to the rising and setting of the sun, which is a source of light and of heat energy, right? Mm-hmm. And temperature, right? So it's like, of course, that makes sense. Anyways, awesome episode, very, very educational. Coaches should listen and just send it to your clients too.
Agreed. I think it's a must listen. Speaking of doctors, the other doctor I really loved was Dr. Tro. Mm-hmm. I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce his name properly, but I have been stalking that guy on Twitter for a long time. And what I love about him is he is no BS. He calls out the medical system and the medical establishment all the time regarding chronic illness and where physicians and just the entire business of medicine has gone off the rails. He's now in a completely private, independent practice. He's got a partner, and he utilizes health coaches front and center. It is his primary tool because so much of what he does is around lifestyle medicine. Mm-hmm. And that's what his health coaches specialize in, is the implementation and the changing of behaviors and habits that make all this. And he's so passionate.
Yeah.
He's so passionate. I think he might have dropped an F-bomb in there.
Oh yeah. No, he was like, he wasn't pulling any punches. I think one of our listeners reached out and said they applied for a job with him after listening to that episode as a health coach. So that's cool. Yeah. He was fired up, and I like that. He kind of came into that interview with like, we had no format or agenda as to what we wanted. We just wanted to hear his take on it, and he delivered. And it was a very passionate conversation for sure. Always great to hear physicians that see the value of health coaching, and he really does.
Loved it.
Okay, I'm going to throw two in a row real quick because these two were episodes that I think flew under the radar, but I just want to flag them for anyone listening because they're relating to kind of like some of your business stuff. For me and anybody else, like, I love getting with my clients. I'm really fun. I love technology. I like content, marketing, but anything in the back end business, it's like, oh. So Parker Stevenson gave us a great talk about bookkeeping.
Yeah.
He made that so fun and gettable, and just like clarity out the wazoo, just like also clear. And Tanya Shaw, who did the same kind of thing for us with regard to legal stuff.
Yeah.
Made it fun, made it totally accessible. I would put those on the re-listen list for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm just thinking back to a conversation I had before we jumped on to record this. I would say every week I'm having a pretty in-depth conversation with someone about like business logistics and understanding, hey, can I make enough money doing this? and I'm giving them a little finance lesson, right? And then the other questions they ask too are legal in nature. So these are things that for many people are a little bit scary, a little bit overwhelming, and both of these people made it seem much less daunting. And you know who else did, piggybacking, is Connie
Yeah.
Vandersanden. She's another one. Again, fully admits too that when she went to open her own financial practice, she got herself in financial trouble, right?
Yeah.
And so she just owns it. And she's like, this is where I went wrong. This is why I went wrong. And this is what I want to help people to have a better relationship with their money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great one to add to the list, because her whole thing was this financial empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
Because how many people feel disempowered or just confused or just like, I'm going to stick my head so far into the sand on this.
Right.
Yeah, great one. She was great.
Brad and I still need to have our money date, but we did talk about it.
I've been doing Money Monday ever since she recommended this Money Monday, where it's like, you know what, just pop open a spreadsheet, put in what you made, put in what you spent last week. Don't stress about it. Just start like paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing that, and it's been just, I mean, you just got to pay attention, right? It starts with paying attention. So.
I mean, we all know from a coaching perspective that what makes things scary is the unknown.
Yeah.
Right? Because you just make it to be a bigger problem in your mind versus maybe it is a really big honking problem, but at least you're able to define it, get your arms around it, and then develop a game plan to handle it. So Connie, Parker, and Tanya, all three fantastic, just making the scary part of business a lot less scary.
Yeah.
One of the people I put down here, and we actually interviewed quite a few just really great coaches, and we're going to have a lot more coming up in 2002. That's going to be a focus of ours, is just interviewing people that are boots on the ground, built coaching practices from scratch themselves. So you're going to see more of that from us. But one person that I really loved talking to her is Charlene, is the way she pronounced it. I would have pronounced it Charlene, but she pronounced it Charlene Giselle. And the reason I liked her is her energy and her passion and her sheer belief in her own ability to succeed at this. This is someone who went from a very high-paying, high-powered job in law, right, to health coaching. Mm-hmm. And she's been able to make a phenomenal practice for herself, targeting on what she knows best, high-powered professionals. And there's a lot of folks, I think, that would love doing something like this, but, you know, and I can relate to this because this is where I was. You're in this position where, you know, you're making a certain amount of money that you've gotten used to, and you just, gosh, there's no way I could ever leave it, or there's no way I could go into health coaching because I'm not going to make as much. That doesn't have to be true. Right. Mm-hmm. And she was a great example of that. And she also provided people with some real actionable tips on how to be heard and how to not be afraid and to reach out to those that you want to work with confidence.
Yeah. No, she's great. I love talking to coaches. So just putting that out there to anybody who's listening that's a coach, hit us up. We love talking to you. What really sprung up for me, and you touched on this, is that her attitude was infectious. Mm-hmm. She was excited to be a coach. And, you know, there was this optimism that was just really palpable in how she spoke about it. And I think that's an attitude shift that has to happen. Right. If you're going to leave your career, like many of us did, to do something new, and it doesn't matter what it is, I've said that 100 times, it could be anything, you better damn well believe you can do it. And you better just damn well go through life with that energy. And that's, you know, strap it on until you believe it, right? But I mean, like, I believed it from her. Like there was like, her energy was so confident and just, I'm doing this. I can't wait to do more of this. This is my calling, and being excited about the unknown and being excited about having made this major shift. I tell you, attitude is everything. Mm-hmm. You know, we know this when we work with the clients who are kind of petulant and whiny and don't really want to change. It's like pulling teeth. And the clients who are excited about change and truly intrinsically motivated to change because they can't imagine their life not changing, they're the ones who get great results. And I think that to me, that rule applies to anybody who's trying anything. Absolutely. Believe you can do it, like truly want it, believe you can do it. And also just like really clearly identify your gaps, so that your barriers, so that you can remove them. And then you're off to the races.
For sure.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Great.
Did you have any other episode you wanted to bring up? I've got one more.
Well, I'm good. I did want to just shout out to Dr. John Jaquish, because he's a fun guy. So dude, that episode was very, very intense. So that was the last one on my list.
Well, you know what I liked about him? Because to be fair, I didn't agree with 100% of what he said. I agreed with about 75% of it. The rest, it's not that I fully disagreed. I just think there's more nuance there. That's all. But there's a lesson to be learned in that, though, that a lot of what he says gets your attention, whether you 100% agree with it or not. How he says things and his passion for it immediately gets your attention, you know, and he had us laughing about a lot of cliches because they're so stinking true, particularly about the fitness business, right? The fitness world. We spent a lot of time talking about how fitness world there's a lot of nonsense and it is ripe for a takeover. So I agreed there. My last one is sort of near and dear to my heart, which was Dr. Al. So Dr. Al Dannenberg is a periodontist. This man's in his 70s, I believe. He actually is also a primal health coach. He actually was one of the first people to take Mark's original course, because as a matter of fact, I think he calls himself a paleo periodontist or something like that, a nutritional periodontist. But Dr. Al found himself diagnosed with cancer. And I'm drawing a blank on the type of cancer, but it's a bone cancer.
With a very aggressive bone cancer.
Yeah. And his doctor had told him that it's a miracle he's lasted this long. And it was because of his strong immune system and his overall health that he had lasted that long. And he recounted his story for us on how optimistic he was going into his treatment, about how he understood what the available treatments were. And because his condition isn't, in theory, it isn't curable, he did not want the kind of treatment that would just leave him devastated for his remaining years, right? So he made the conscious choice to take a different path. And it got dicey for a while there. He will be the first one to admit it. And he tells us a story about his lowest point, but about how somebody close to him, his wife, gave him a little bit of tough love and got him up and moving again. And that in his last doctor's visits, they can't say he was cured, but there were no lesions, you know. But he talks about now how I don't think he's actually an actively practicing periodontist anymore, but he's doing a lot more coaching now around people who have cancer and helping to support those folks through their journey. And also showing them how they can support their own immune systems, support their own cellular health with different choices. He's not the only cancer survivor that we spoke to. We also spoke to Martha Tattenborn, who wrote a book, right? She's a dietitian, and she wrote her book, Hacking Chemo. So I should add her to the list. So these are folks that have emerged from probably the scariest diagnosis imaginable, made it through, and are now using that experience to support others. So both of those really sort of hit home for me, especially recently. Brad's uncle recently just died of cancer, and it was this rapid decline. So those, to me, they just came to the forefront of my brain after all of that, and they're both really worth listening to for different reasons.
Yep, I would agree. It was a good year. 2022. Don't know. Almost don't want to speculate on what it's going to be like. Let's hope for the best.
Yeah, let's hope for the best. I mean, our little school is going to be innovating quite a bit next year. I don't want to spoil any surprises, but you know, we do think that not only is health coaching going to continue to grow in 2022, but there's going to be an opportunity for health coaches to really define who they are, specialize in an area, lean into their strengths, and not only define who they are, but to define what health coaching really is, and do so with confidence and strength. And we want to do what we can, both on this podcast and through our school, to support that. So we've got a lot of exciting things coming for 2022. We will be talking to a lot more just everyday coaches. And it's not we'll be talking to Mark Sisson again, but we don't need to talk to the empire builders. Those are always great to pepper in there for inspiration. But I think it's more important to hear from just the average health coach that is making a full-time salary, living the life they want to live, doing something they love. I find that more inspiring than anything else, really.
I would add that I would love to hear from coaches who have had really interesting breakthroughs with clients.
Yeah.
And like, I want to hear those stories of like real transformation that happened for people who maybe were at their wits' end, who had tried everything, and their experience in working with a coach is what got them to finally buy into and commit to lasting change that makes sense for them. So if you're a coach listening, you don't have to have it all figured out. But if you have some of it figured out and you're observing that some of what you've been doing with your clients is working, we love talking about that stuff. And folks love learning and hearing about it. I go back to, for anybody who's like aspiring or new in health coaching and might not even have a sense of like what it is, what it feels like, what it sounds like, how does it work? That's where speaking to practicing coaches really helps to crystallize that for folks who are on the fence. So if you are a practicing coach, you can help your fence sitting peers by just sharing what you know, what you've learned and practiced and tried. And we love talking to our peers.
Yeah, hit us up. You can go to our landing page. It's just primalhealthcoach.com/radio. It'll take you to our landing page, and on there is a contact page. So you can submit your name, your contact information, a little bit about you, and we'll get back to you, potentially book a interview with you. And like Erin says, you guys don't have to have it all figured out. None of us do. We've been doing this for 10 years and we're learning something new all the time, right? So it's not about that. It's about, for anyone willing to share their struggles and what they learned from them and how they overcame them, that's hugely valuable. Or perhaps you're not even completely over them yet, but, inspiring stories about how you're just still moving forward, and what you've learned, and just paying it forward to the coach that's a couple of years behind you, I think is huge.
Yeah. Do it.
I love it. Well, it was a great year. I'm looking forward to next year. We got lots of great guests coming up and lots of exciting announcements coming up. So thanks for being my ride or die here on Health Coach Radio.
Absolutely. All right, crew. We'll see you next year.
Later.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.